channel contains spoilers of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Thank you.
We're here live at Diamond City to present the first ever Best Character Awards. This awards occurs whenever a series ends and we look at the best of the best characters based on their personality, their characteristics, or the things that they've done that makes them stand out and make the show as a whole. And here come our visitors. Here's Artemis in his vest, and of course we have Cinnamon in her blossoms. And finally Loki, who seems to present Skyhawk, and is he excited?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever Best Character Awards, where I go over the end of a cartoon or anime series and go over the best of the best characters, whether they've done through personality or their actions to come. I'm going over She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, though I'm not 100% sure if a season 6 will be coming out, but anyway, it'd be best to start off with this award with my co-host, and unfortunately, I had to pay a lot for them. Ladies and gentlemen, Double Trouble! Don't ruin it, Double. Hey, yes, I would understand why many of you hate her. She was basically abusive both mentally and emotionally and physically to Catra as well as Adora. Basically abusing Catra to no end, and of course, not above zapping poor Adora's brains out when she became She-Ra the first time around. However, when she lost her power of the Black Garnet, she was reduced to going to the Princess Alliance in order to stay alive. And in doing so, she is basically kind of a questionable character. But I put her number 10 because of how complex she is. For starters, she definitely has some very bizarre advice that can sometimes bring out some positive outcomes. For instance, in Season 4, when they were trying to figure out who the traitor was, Shadow Weaver was the first one to suggest that they use a trap. And of course, what made her the most complex was her sacrifice in the season finale. Granted, it still didn't make her redeemable, as Noel wanted to put it, but at the same time, it makes you think of how complex she is as a character. Sometimes the best characters are the really complex ones. And even though she was hateful and spiteful toward Catra and Adora, she still had some love to them. Lonnie was basically a minor character, but there were some highlights to her in the majority of the series up to Season 4. So, of course, Lonnie and Catra don't exactly get along. And granted, Catra isn't exactly the best in the beginning of the series, but Lonnie definitely makes up some pointers, like she tries to be there for Kyle and Rogelio whenever it gets high, and has a lot of patience for Scorpia. And towards season 4, she practically risks her life to save Kyle whenever the storm came into play. And in season 4, this is probably where she has the aha moment. Slowly but surely, she begins to add up of why Adora and Scorpia left. She was tired of the abuse they were getting from the Horde. No one cared about her or her friends. It's that realization is where I put her in number 9 because even though she wasn't completely redeemable, she definitely recognized that she was in a toxic situation and finally decided to walk away along with Adora and Scorpia. Angela is a bit more of a motherly figure to both Adora and Glimmer, though with Glimmer it was a little tricky. Granted, she tries to take responsibility of the queen as seriously as she could. She doesn't take any nonsense and tries to keep her act together, but one of the reasons I put her in this spot is because of her sacrifice, as well as the fact of how she just treats others, like Glimmer and Adora. With Adora, she was a little suspicious. As for Glimmer, she definitely comes off as an adult who tries to be responsible, but yet at the same time, as we saw with Glimmer, she was paralyzed with fear, as she admitted at the tail end of season 3. It was also because she felt responsible for Micah's demise. With this sacrifice, she was starting to recognize some concept of her consequences and was even praising her daughter. Because of her selfless actions, this definitely earned her spot as best character because she was not only being approving of Adora, but also recognizing some of her own faults as well. Cinderella and Natasha. I didn't have too much of them during the majority of the seasons except for season 1. But I do feel like their dynamics was your usual gay couples, like you would see with Ruby and Sapphire. But however, with this one, we definitely seen a little bit of it in season 5, where the two were very devoted to each other, Natasha being competitive, but with Spinnerella, she's basically grounded and likes to be fair with everyone they're connected to. In that point, Natasha even admits that she loves Spinnerella and that Spinnerella is her weakness. Their relationship represents an ideal, healthy one, which is why I put them this high up on the list. They would have been further down if not for the short amount of time they've had. So, when Frosta first appeared in season 1, she definitely appeared cold and unfeeling, considering the fact that she's an 11-year-old who's running a kingdom by herself. Now, Loki just turned on the AC, you'll be fine. Anyway, the reason why she was cold was because of the pressure. But when Glimmer was in that situation, she tried to be helpful and supportive, as well as along the way changed her mind about being part of the Princess Alliance. But what really highlighted it was in season 3 was when she took on Scorpia and explained of how mature she was when she had to say, I'm not only here to help the people of Etheria, but also help out the Horde, which definitely shows that she needs to help others aside from her own needs. As for Perfuma, she definitely came off as a bit of a flake for the beginning of a portion and was a non-violent person. However, when the situation got high, and with Adora's encouragement, Perfuma had to put up with some violence in order to save her kingdom from the wrath of a Horde. It wasn't easy, but she soon began to adapt to something that was out of her comfort zone, and she even began to show more highlight of it in season 5 when she tries to help Scorpia with her confidence, as well as bringing out that sometimes her non-violent approaches, like preventing herself from hurting her friends, was a weakness, but in actuality is strength. And the way she words it really puts her up in this list along with Frosta because both of them had some time of showing of how much they've grown and matured throughout the series, as well as paying attention to helping Scorpia get through her own differences. I have to admit, Mermista was basically a very difficult character to try to put on in terms of ranking on this list, but I put her this high up in the list is because of her actions. You see, in Season 1, she kind of came off as deadpan and uncaring. It looked as if she seemed bored out of her mind being the ruler of her own kingdom. However, when Adora came into the picture, this is where her character development started to shine a little bit more. Not only does she learn how to be a proper leader, but she also had to learn that you can't always sit on your butt and not expect that the problem was going to go crashing into, because it will. So, because of that, Mermista needs to learn of how to be proactive as well, not only for the kingdom, but also for the others, because in a nutshell, Etheria was connected. Okay, with Scorpia, she strikes me as the Horde's huge cinnamon roll. She loves to give hugs and tries to be the supportive friend to Ketra as well as her members. Over time, though, as she was exposed to the reality of the Horde and the relationship she was having with them, she slowly began to draw up some confidence with her abilities and powers as that of a princess, and also showing that she was loyal to no end and being more than the muscle thanks to the help of Perfuma and Bo. And the reason why I put her at number 5 is because of her singing capabilities. Not only just her character arc in terms of confidence, but her singing is just amazing. You wouldn't help but even think that she would sing that good. Not only that, but I liked how her evolution in her mental capabilities evolved. Not only was she starting to pick up certain cues and such, she starts to pay attention to more details, as we saw with Double Trouble. And I have to admit, I did like it when Double Trouble got stabbed in the back by Stinger. Right, Double? To understand why some of you were majorly concerned about Entrapta in the beginning of Season 1. And yeah, if it makes you feel better, so was I. She always got giddy and excited over all of the first one's tech and the technology she would get to tinker with to her heart's content, which was definitely both good and bad, especially for the Princess Rebellion when she went into the Horde. But as we journeyed forward with the series and seen more screen time with her, we definitely learned that she's socially awkward. She has a hard time understanding and relating to people. And it definitely shows she's just not a wicked person. It's just that she has a hard time understanding people and also trying to pay attention to the consequences. So, when in Season 3, we definitely learned that she values imperfection because they are a beautiful thing. And it's also because of her capabilities of valuing others that are different is what helps brings out some of that character development in Hordak, which is again why I feel like they're the best couple in this series. So again, I put her at number 3 because of her character development. In Season 5, this is where she definitely begins to pay attention to her own personal needs as well as the needs of others and learning of how to have that self-control, which was not very easy with her, that's for sure. So, Glimmer didn't have a whole lot of confidence in herself at the beginning of the series. She was brave and reckless, but yet at the same time, she didn't seem to have the capability of trying to put her best foot forward in her powers. However, when her mother basically died, well, quote unquote died, she had to take up more responsibility than she was ready for, and along the way she had to get support from her friends in order to do so. And her biggest highlight was in season 5, after her reckless and somewhat stupid decision of using the heart of Etheria with ignoring a Bo and Adora in the process. She definitely begins to realize the concepts of her actions and the consequences that had happened. In her face-off with Horde Prime, she was basically recognizing her decision was a terrible one, and definitely matured and recognized the fault in her decisions, and also learned how to make up for that along the way. Her face-off with her father Micah definitely helped bring out more of that confidence she'd been developing in the series, from being a helpless princess to a powerful queen who's gonna never give up in saving her home from invaders. Alright folks, this is it. The moment you have been waiting for. Drum roll please. And the winner for the best She-Ra characters in the girls category is Catra and Adora. You would have figured that these two would be number one on the list, and you would be right. These two began the series and these two ended phenomenally. Though they never occurred to me as a couple more than being best friends on opposite ends. For Adora's growth, she definitely had come from a long way from being this Horde soldier who was struggling to understand what she wanted to do with herself, and her interaction with Bo and Glimmer definitely showed her what the Horde was really about. And upon learning that knowledge, she obtained the powers of She-Ra, the legendary warrior who's supposed to protect the peace and the innocence from the forces of evil. However, when she learns the dark truth about the first ones and where she comes from, this is definitely where more of her powers struggles and becomes more of self-doubt for her. And along the way, she soon begins to accept the truth of what she wanted in her life. She wanted Catra in her life, and she stopped viewing herself as someone who has to waste her life away. And when she finally changed her outfit, it reflected the character growth that she had. All the people who actually influenced her life, and take more value of who she is as a person, not just some weapon for the first ones, not a Horde soldier, but her own person. As for Catra, she was at ends with Adora and did a flip characterization of her own. She struggled with the abuse that she had felt with from Hordak and Shadow Weaver, and also had to deal with the isolation that was left by Adora as time went on. Not only was it she was forced to take her anger out on the three friends Kyle, Rogelio, and Ronnie, but she also had to take out her emotional stress on Scorpia, the only friend she actually has in the Horde. It wasn't until her fallout in Season 4, thanks to you, Double Trouble, as well as the fact that she was stranded on the ship with Horde Prime, she soon begins to develop a concept of self-loathing and finally accepts the truth about herself. She doesn't want power, she just wants to be accepted as someone who is loved and willing to be loved, and soon began to be more honest along the way, as well as opening up her feelings toward others. It was also her opening feelings toward Adora that the two finally overcame their own difficult obstacles together, and also brought out the best in each other toward the end of Season 5. True, some of you didn't like how it may have ended, but this is magic, and magic definitely is something that is unexplainable, as is love. The love between the two of them was a very difficult one, but at the same time, it was one that these two had worth sharing. So congratulations, you two. You've just won the Best Girls Award. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to go into the boys category for Best Character Awards. See ya soon!